Hello friends, this lecture is the 10th lecture of our series of the news analysis. So the first topic that we are going to talk here is regarding the Press Freedom Index. Why we are talking this regarding this Press Freedom Index? Because the World Press Freedom Index 2021, which is produced by one non-governmental organization which is called as the Reporters Without Borders, it is a French non-governmental organization, has ranked India as first 142nd. 142nd ranked has India got. So in 2020 also India got 142nd rank also. This year also India got 142nd, but we are continuously losing because out of this 180 countries India is getting 142. So India is on the losing side with respect to press freedom. So the question here, the question formulated here is, India's performance in the World Press Freedom Index is poor with 142nd rank among 180 countries that we have to discuss here. So the explanation here given is, in 2016 India's rank was 133rd, which has steadily climbed down to 142nd in 2020. Now it is again 142nd. So what is this World Press Freedom Index? It is regarding this I already told, this Reporter Without Border, this organization NGO has been publishing this report, and it is publishing since its 2002. And then this particular organization, Reporters Without Borders, has a consultative status with United Nations also, UNESCO also, and Council of Europe also. So it ranks the countries with respect to the level of freedom the journalists enjoy, but it does not talk about the quality of the journalism. Only the level of freedom the journalists are enjoying in that particular country. So what are the different criteria or parameters which are used by these Reporters Without Border? So this parameter, the list of parameters is given here. That is the pluralism will be considered, media independence will be considered, media environment and self-censorship, then any kind of a legislative framework is there or not for protection of media interest, that will be seen. Transparency in the news reporting will be seen. Then infrastructure quality that support the production of the news and information, that will also be considered. Then what is India's performance analysis? That India ranked 142nd in 2020, now also 142nd, and it is fared poorly among its neighbors. So Nepal is at 106, Sri Lanka is at 127, Bhutan has 65. Only Pakistan who performed bad than us, that is Pakistan is 145th. Otherwise our other neighbors has performed good. So India is classified as a bad for journalism, which is actually a very bad condition, serious condition that India has considered bad for journalism, and it is saying that it is one of the most dangerous country for journalists who wants to do their job properly. So it is considered that there will be some kind of a environment of intimidation against the journalists who are critical of the government, and the nationalist government itself promoting this environment of intimidation. So it is blaming this our central government also, and it talks about the Kashmir situation also, when the reporters were harassed by the peoples and the paramilitary forces. Then what is the reason for India's poor performance? It is saying that, see, journalists are repeatedly getting attacked, and there are some coordinated campaigns are also going on against the journalists, which particularly regarding the women, they are more violent. So that's why India is at the poor performance. Next article or next topic that we are going to talk about is ULFA, regarding ULFA, ULFA. So the question here is, consider the following statement regarding the ULFA organization. 3 statements are given, and it is asking which of the following statement is incorrect. So you have to find out incorrect. So the first statement is it is an armed separatist organization operating in Indian state of Nagaland. Second, it has a signed agreement with the government in 2016 to maintain peace and resolution. Third one, in 31st January 1980 it was formed with this leader, this Isak Chisishu, then Thainangaleng, Muya, and SS Khaplang. So these all statements are actually wrong. We will see why these all statements are wrong, but these all statements are regarding this NSCN organization, National Socialist Council of Nagaland organization, which is working in Nagaland. So all these 3 statements are regarding that organization, not this regarding ULFA. Okay, that's the difference. That's why we have to choose incorrect statement, and all of the above are incorrect statement. That's why the answer is G here. So what is the context? Why particularly we are discussing it? Because this just 2 days back this on the 21st, yes, on the 21st April. Then the ULFA organization members have actually abducted 3 employees of the ONGC from the Assam itself. So that's why it is in news. So explanation is given here that ULFA is an United Liberation Front of Assam. Okay, so it is an armed separatist organization. They want the separate state or a sovereign state of the Assam, different from the government, Indian government. Okay, that's the difference. So then they were using the violent methods to do that. So since 1990, government has considered this or declared this as a terrorist organization. So it is established in 1979 by Paresh Barua, and it has ties with this National Socialist Council of Nagaland, which is organization NSC, and I already told you, National Socialist Council of Nagaland, which is talking about having a separate Nagalim state under the union. The Nagalim state consisting of the Naga people. So that's the different thing. So it has ties with that also, and it has ties with this Myanmar based or Burma based, it is called as Kachin Independent Army. So it has ties with such kind of a violent organizations or organization which are acting against the interest of India also. So Indian Army has started military operation against it since 1990, and which are continued till present. So now we will talk about ULFA and the local support. See, ULFA said that they have the local support. They said that we are talking about the national aspirations of the Nagaland people, and that's why we are talking about the Swadhin Assam, a separate Assam. But actually there is not that much local support, because there are so many political parties which are active in Assam and which accept the constitution of the India and which represent the interest of the people. So what is the current situation? Central government wants to have a dialogue with this ULFA, but ULFA is so much adamant to its demand regarding a separate sovereign state in the Assam. So that's why government is not agreeing, and the ULFA leaders, they are not agreeing. They are not able to come to the same table right now. And recently there is an emergence of Islamist group in the Assam also, and ULFA is trying to have a link with this ISI. It has already started having link in with this ISI organization which acts against the India. So that's why there is a deadlock and there is no discussion going on. Next is regarding India has been declared as a country or the country of the particular concern. So here the question here is choose the correct statement with respect to US Commission of International Religious Freedom. Actually this US Commission of International Religious Freedom declares any country as a country of particular concern or not. That we will see in the detail what is this country of particular concern and why India is considered as a country of particular concern and what will be its consequences. So correct statement we have to choose, and the first statement itself be correct, that is it recommends the State Department of the US to put India in the list of the countries of the particular concern. Okay, that we will see in detail. When we will see the explanation, we will understand it better. So this US Commission of International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, has recommended this year also, last year also is recommended, this year also recommended to the State Department of the USA to put India into the country of the particular concern for violation of religious freedom. So it is talking about violation of the religious freedom in India. So it has recommended to the administration of the USA that there are some kind of a severe violation of the religious freedom in India. That's why India has to be put into country of particular concern. It has recommended to the Trump administration also last year also, but Trump administration has rejected its recommendation. So what are the key concerns regarding which are mentioned in this report? That during this Citizenship Amendment Act protest, this Delhi riots has started, and the mobs which are supported by Hindu nationalism or supported by the government, they were attacking the Muslim. Second, it is talking about the National Register of Citizens NRC exercise, that is in Assam, where the Muslims are getting excluded, and there has been creation of the large detention camp has been built in the Assam. So that's the particular condition is talking about. That's why that it is talking about there is some kind of a discrimination regarding the Muslims in India. And then it is talking about efforts to prohibit interfaith marriage. We know that Uttar Pradesh and the Madhya Pradesh has enacted the act to prohibit such interfaith marriages. So regarding that also it is considered that it is a cause of the concern. What is India's stand regarding this report? India said that India already rejected reports saying that foreign government actually has no right to talk about the religious freedom in India. Next it is saying that it does not talk about the religious freedom that India and its constitution gives to various communities. Next, it says that this particular report is actually biased. So what is this US Commission on International Religious Freedom? It is actually independent bipartisan US federal government commission which defends the universal right of the religious freedom. So it talks about religious freedom only. It is an advisory body. Its recommendations are not binding to the government. It is just an advisory body. And so it talks about the religious freedom violation in the different countries all over the world and recommends then to put any country as a country of the particular concern, and it recommends it to president. It is up to the president whether to designate that country as a country of the particular concern or not, and its headquarters in Washington DC. So there is actually no sanction or anything when it is country has been recognized as a country of the particular concern, but definitely it harms the international image. So that's why India does not want it to put into that list of country of the particular concern. Next topic is regarding the ad hoc judges. Ad hoc judges are actually the temporary judges. The question here is, consider the following statement about the ad hoc judge in the High Court. The three statements are given. So it said that it is an appointed by the President, or Article 224 of the Constitution deals with appointment of the ad hoc judges, High Court, and once appointed he will be senior most among the High Court judges. And the answer is A here. We will see why this third statement is wrong and first and second statement is correct. Actually, why we are discussing it? Because the Supreme Court had decided to appoint these ad hoc judges now. Actually, Supreme Court was not using this provision which is there in Article 224A for appointment of the ad hoc meaning temporary judges. So Supreme Court was not using it, but since there is a pendency of 57 lakh cases in the High Court, Supreme Court wants to use it. So what is this 224? Article 224 says that yes, the Chief Justice of High Court, that it may request a person, a retired judge of a High Court, to become a temporary judge or an ad hoc judge, where the Chief Justice of High Court has to take the permission, previous consent of the President to do that. If the person who has been requested, the retired judge who is the retired now, if that person is requested and the person agrees to become an ad hoc judge, that person is appointed as the ad hoc or a temporary judge of the High Court. So what are the arguments which are given? That any person who is retired, who has around 15 years or more as an experience of a High Court judge, definitely he will be able to deal the cases faster. That's what the appointment given. In this particular diagram, here is the vacancies are given, that which state has the maximum vacancies, which state has the minimum vacancies. If you see, Patna has 60% of the vacancies. Kolkata, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, all these have almost 50% or more than 50% of the vacancies of High Court judges. Whereas there are states like Manipur, Meghalaya, Sikkim which has the 0% vacancy, and there are states like Kerala and Guwahati which has just around 14.9% and 16.7% vacancies respectively. So some states has around 60% vacancy also, some state has around 0% vacancy also. So the bench of Justice S.A. Bobde, Justice Kaul and Suryakant, as they have given some kind of a guidelines to appoint the higher ad hoc judges. So what are the guidelines? So guidelines talking about the appointment and the functioning of the ad hoc judges. Also it is talking about when the ad hoc judge has to be appointed. It says that suppose there is a pending of case for more than 8 to 10 years, then ad hoc judge can be appointed. Next, it is said that if the term of the ad hoc judge is extendable, it cannot be fixed. It can be 2 or 3 years, or it can be extendable also. It is not just watertight compartment. Okay, it can be extendable, it can be more than 3 years also if required. Then it is said that the judge will not be the senior most, but the judge will be the junior most judge. So the ad hoc judge will be considered as a junior most judge. Though he was retired and he is appointed, but he will not be considered as a senior most, he will be considered as a junior most, so that there will not be any kind of a threat to the services of the judges who are already working. And it is said that respect to the selection, it is saying that they will be chosen based on their expertise on that particular field. If the cases with respect to that fields are dealt by this judge, then the term of the judge will be over. Till the judge is required for dealing with his expertise, he will be there. If the cases with which he was dealing are actually dealt with, then he will be retired again. Okay, so if you like this video, then please subscribe the channel, like the video, comment the video and share the video. Thank you.